Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad that you decided to join us today. Welcome to today's webinar with the Kentucky Advising Academy, an initiative of the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education. I'm your host, Mitzi Holland, and I am joined today by two very special guests, Ms. Robin Abair and Ms. Cassie Benedict, and they will give a more formal introduction here in just a moment. But first, as we give everyone time to join, I want you to just, if you don't mind, and I'm having technical difficulties, of course. I wanted you to put your name in the chat and your organization and your title so that we can get to know everyone that is with us today. And as always, we appreciate you being here, and you will receive ELA or Frisky credit at the end if you complete the survey. And we will talk a little bit more about that at the end as to how you will receive that certificate. On the agenda for today, we will, of course, have a KAA overview, and then we'll move into our webinar where we will talk about how to avoid summer melt, keeping students on track for college, and then we will share how you can stay connected to the Kentucky Advising Academy and receive your ELA and your evaluation. So as we move into this webinar, I would like to say that if anyone is joining us for the first time, the Kentucky Advising Academy works to support educators in providing equitable access to post-secondary opportunities and advising. And so we do this by connecting educators to resources and supports and networking opportunities so that they can support students in their post-secondary journey, with the goal being a seamless transition from high school to their desired career. And we have multiple ways that you can stay connected with Kentucky Advising Academy. We have our podcasts, our webinars, our informational emails, our professional learning events, and our online toolkit. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about those things at the end of our webinar. And with that, I would like to give a little bit of background information about summer melt and why we are here today before I turn it over to our guests to introduce themselves. So what is exactly summer melt? And summer melt is the phenomenon of students melting away during the summer months and ultimately not attending their post-secondary choice when school starts in the fall. And summer melt is a more common experience for low-income students. Now, the National College Attainment Network has a more formal definition of summer melt, and they define it as when college-intending students who have applied to, been accepted by, and possibly even made a deposit to a college or university, but failed to matriculate to that college or any other college in the fall following their high school graduation. So we know that summer melt is real, and we know that summer melt can happen really at any grade level, but primarily it's a big concern during the summer between senior year and college. And this year, due to changes with the FAFSA, students may experience an even greater melt than usual. So like I mentioned, we have two very special guests with us today. And I am going to just in a moment let them introduce themselves. But we have Robin Abair with the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education, and Cassie Benedict, who is the Director of Outreach Services for Kentucky Higher Education Assistance Authority. So Robin, would you share with our participants a little bit about yourself? And then Cassie, you can follow.
Sure. Thank you for the introduction, Mitzi. My name is Robin Abair, and I work at the Council on Post-Secondary Education in the K-12 Policies and Programs Unit. And what we do is really focus on that transition space between high school and college. And so we look at all kinds of strategies and ideas to help students make that transition successfully, to finish well, to finish strong in their last year of high school or their last years of high school. And then to take care of all the multitude of things that have to happen in that summer between high school and college, and then to successfully launch into that first year. So there's so many things that we work on. We work a lot with early post-secondary opportunities and summer bridge, which I'll talk about a little bit more later on today. But these are very specific strategies that we have to try to connect students with their post-secondary institutions and help smooth that transition, whether it's about academic preparedness or whether it's about a sense of belonging, whatever it is that might be the barrier for students. We try to help them navigate that and really work with partnerships to help the people who are closest to students support them as they make that transition. So I'm really happy to be here with you today. Thank you, Mitzi, for having me.
And thank you for joining us. Now, Cassie, will you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. I am Cassie Benedict. I am Director of Outreach Services with Kentucky Higher Education Assistance Authority, or KEA. I manage 14 staff members, 13 outreach counselors, and a college info roadshow mobile classroom driver who travel the state of Kentucky. They live and work in their home communities. Probably many of you know your KEA outreach counselor and work with them routinely. We work basically any group that will listen to us talk about going to college, paying for college, preparing for college, all of the things. We work with them, talk to them, and partner with them. We, of course, have been very busy the last 5 months because of the FAFSA delays and the FAFSA changes. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into our webinar today. But my staff is out there currently. They're averaging about 10,000 contacts a month. And so that you can probably assume they're busy out there doing the good work of helping people matriculate to college. And so thrilled to be here today to talk about summer melt and some very specific things that you guys can do to address that.
Well, thank you both, ladies, and we're excited. I know this is a hot topic for many, so let's get our discussion started. And Robin, I would like to talk to you about some considerations for advisors regarding summer melt. So my question is, in your experience, what do advisors need to be aware of and share with their students?
Great question. So many things, but I'd like to start with this idea of really understanding and digging into summer melt. You know, the transition period between high school and college is kind of a no man's land, because after these students graduate, you know, technically the high school is not that responsible for them anymore. And until they enroll, the colleges they're not on the radar of the colleges. They might not even know that they're planning to enroll. And so there's this period of time where students can feel really lonely. And so this can be a real challenge for them. And, you know, the couple of months period for those of us who've already been there, done that, doesn't seem like a really long time. But for students, it can seem like a really long time. And the challenges and the stressors that happen during that period can be, you know, multiplied, because they're just not used to being in that space. And they don't really know what to expect, especially some of our underrepresented students or our first generation students. And so the first thing that I would recommend is to really dig into data around summer melt. Some statistics tell us that as many as 40% of students who plan to go to college don't actually enroll and make it to the college at the beginning of the year. And so we're not even talking about making it through the first year. We're talking about making it to the first year. And so if you don't know what the percentage of students that you have in your high school who are planning to attend college, but who actually enroll and make it to that first year, I think it would be really important to try to find out what that is. It's really key to kind of know what the challenge is for your local area, so that you can think about strategies to address it. So just knowing about where students are and about their matriculation is really important. So Mitzi, if you don't mind to go ahead and put up, I have one slide about other considerations that that you might want to think about. Did you want me to share it, Mitzi, or have you got it?
I think, is this not the correct one? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see here. I'm not seeing a slide, but that's okay. It's okay. We can work through it. So what I wanted to emphasize is to just kind of go back to this idea about how the summer between high school and college can really feel like a long and lonely time for students, especially for first generation students and their families. There are so many boxes that you have to check and so many things that you need to take care of. And many students don't have a good idea of what those things are or the timeline for getting those things done. And sometimes organizational timelines can be a little bit longer than what they are, for individuals. And so they might not realize the importance of meeting all those deadlines and being in good communication. And to also remember that this melting can happen at any time. It can start as early as the spring of the senior year or even before the senior year. We hear a lot about how sometimes seniors in high school are kind of looking forward to that last year where they might feel like, okay, I've met most of the requirements for graduation, so I might take it a little bit easy during my senior year. And so if they take courses that don't necessarily keep their academic rigor as high as it could be, sometimes they start to doubt their own abilities over that summer period and wonder, am I really ready? Because people talk so much about what are those rigors of the coursework. And when students don't really have a good concept of that, they might have a lot of anxiety about their readiness. They don't really have a good way to measure it and know if they really are prepared. And so it's just really important to know what the summer melt situation or condition is in your own local area. And then to also think about, especially those students who might be most at risk for melting. And we know that those are our first generation students or students who are underrepresented in some other demographic. And we know who they are. And we just need to sort of handhold and make sure that we do whatever we can to help them bridge that gap.
Oh, thank you, Robin. And I know technology is a little crazy at times, but we do have the right slide up. So we are
Okay.
we were
Okay.
showing. So just to give you a little peace of mind with that. And you brought
Okay.
up several good points. Data does tell a story, and so data is very important when it comes to all things post-secondary advising. And then the part that melting can happen at any time, but the summer between your high school and college is or can feel like a long and lonely time for those seniors because they're going into such uncharted territory. So very good points. And I know that you have some strategies that you have experienced or that you would suggest for advisors and educators to begin impacting and preventing summer melt. So I'm going to advance the slide and put that up. And then if you don't mind, would you talk to us a little bit about some of those strategies?
Sure, Mitzi, I'd love to. And this really kind of helps us think about if students are feeling lonely and if they're feeling uncertain about what to do, there are some specific strategies that we can implement in order to help them make that transition. The first thing, I've said before that in real estate, it's location, location, location. And when we talk about summer melt and supporting students, it's communication, communication, communication. It's really important to reach out to students and families so that they understand how to prepare for college. I know that Cassie's going to talk a little bit about checklists and timelines that FAFSA offers. that we can borrow from other places. If you have a particular institution that many of your students matriculate to, it might be good to see if they have a checklist or timeline that you could share with those students. It's important to figure out new and innovative ways to communicate with those families. Maybe some of your schools have texting apps or texting opportunities where you can send messages to students and their families. Maybe it's even possible to have some summer opportunities where students can drop in for some extra advising or just some extra conversation. They might just need a little encouragement. And so I know that some high schools plan for their graduates to come back during the summer just for some drop-in opportunities. You can have some open office hours. And I know that's hard for educators, but it can make such a difference for a student to be able to have just a little touch base with a trusted adult, someone they already know, someone they trust, and someone whose advice that they can really pay attention to. So reach out to families as often and as thoroughly as you possibly can, and share information with them that they may not know. It's just always good to assume that they know very little. If you tell them something they already know, there's no harm, no foul. But if you don't tell them at all, then they might really be missing out on some key information that could make this transition a little bit easier for them. Another strategy to mitigate summer melt is really more about the academic side of things. And it's important to help students understand the rigors of college coursework. And I know that one popular strategy is to think about Bloom's taxonomy. Now, I know teachers are very familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. We've always used that in our lesson planning, to kind of help students reach a higher rigor in the demands of the assignment or the demands of the content. But it's important sometimes to help students be introduced to Bloom's taxonomy, where they understand that a lot of our high school courses and our coursework is often on the lower side of Bloom's taxonomy, and especially when it comes to independence, that students are kind of used to teachers going back over information right before the test. They're used to them giving a very explicit review sheet or, an introduction or a reintroduction to the content the day before they have a test. And when they get to college, a lot of those structures are not going to be in place. Sometimes they are, and sometimes they aren't. But this notion of being a more independent thinker, a more independent worker is really important for our students. And so to help them see that sometimes we're asked to just remember, we're asked to memorize, we're asked to give back information or maybe apply the information. But college coursework is going to ask us to do analysis. It's going to ask us to do synthesis and even creation and evaluation of information. And so to help them see that knowing or memorizing is not enough for college coursework, so that they begin to see what the rigor might be and how it might be different for them when they get into college. Another strategy is to think about partnerships with post-secondary admissions colleagues. We work a lot with K-12, and we also work a lot with post-secondary partners. And there are so many people with such good intentions on both sides of this fence, and they really want the opportunity to work together. But, and I know that in May is probably the worst time to have this conversation, because I know my K-12 friends are really taxed right now. They're under a lot of stress. I've been in enough classrooms myself to know what it feels like to be in a high school during May with so many things going on. But throughout the year, it's important to build partnerships with your post-secondary colleagues who can maybe help you carry some of that load and bring some of that information to students. Invite them into your schools. Invite them in as co-advisors for students. Invite them in to your parent nights so that they can connect directly with these colleagues. And they probably have a lot of brochures and forms and checklists and things like that you could share and tap into. So it's really important to tap into those partnerships. Many hands make light work. And so it's important to see what they have that can enhance the experience of your students who are ready to make this transition. And finally, there are bridge programs, and many of these are facilitated or sponsored by outside organizations. It could be a summer bridge program, like we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes. But these bridge programs are basically an opportunity for students to have some support during that important transition space between senior year and first year of college. And it can really help students build connections and find support on campus for things they might need. During our summer bridge programs, we've interviewed so many students. We asked them, what's the biggest takeaway that you have, or the most important thing that you gain from this summer bridge experience? And overwhelmingly, they tell us, I have a person, a name and a phone number, a person that I know and trust who is on campus that I could call or I could text or I could contact, who could help me figure out what to do. Now, this person might not be able to answer my question or solve my problem, but I trust them to help me figure out how to solve it or how to get the information I need. And so we just really cannot underestimate the importance of students having connections on those campuses. And those are hard for them to establish on their own. We have to help them with that. Also, bridge programs can really be encouraged through advisors and parents and educators. But they have to know about them. Advisors and parents and educators have to know where these programs are and how they can be accessed if they're going to be able to share that with students. And so it's really important because advisors and parents and educators are trusted by the students. They're way more likely to engage with those things if they hear it from somebody they know and trust.
Well, thank you, Robin. And I'm going to stop sharing here for just a second so that we can talk about this last question, because I don't believe that we have a slide that's directly related to upcoming summer bridge opportunities. But I think that we will have some information that maybe we can share with participants after the fact, maybe a list of some opportunities. So could you share a little bit of information about the opportunities that you're aware of coming up for summer bridge?
Yeah, absolutely. So at CPE for the last, I guess this is our fourth iteration of summer bridge programming. We've had the wonderful opportunity through some COVID relief education dollars, federal dollars that came to Kentucky, and our partnership with the Kentucky Department of Education to offer summer bridge programming for students who are transitioning from high school into college. And so CPE has provided discretionary grants to different institutions of higher education to run summer bridge programs for a variety of students. And so in Kentucky, we have a model where the institution kind of thinks about what are the most pressing needs within my community, and then how can I design a program that will really support students and the challenges that they have within that local area. And so, for example, some of them might focus on STEM careers, helping students make the transition from high school into a STEM program. Or it might be we have one that's related to education, or it might be more just a generic program that kind of targets underrepresented students. And so you might have first generation students or students from low incomes who are new to the college experience, and they just kind of get a big picture of what it means to make this transition. And so these summer bridge programs include all kinds of opportunities for students. All of them include helping students become familiar with the campus, to help them meet key people, like who do I go to if I have a financial issue? Or is there a food bank on campus? Or who do I go to if I have a housing concern? Where do I get support for academic issues, or some tutoring, or some advising for the career path that I have chosen? And so lots of effort is made to make sure that these students have names and numbers and contacts and even personal interactions with the people who can help them most. Another aspect of Summer Bridge is that many of them include an opportunity for students to take a course early. Sometimes it's the first year experience course. Sometimes it's a general education course that's offered at the beginning. But many of them have the opportunity to have some coursework that's kind of in a controlled and supported environment. And so it's great for these students who are unfamiliar with the rigors of college coursework to be able to take that class together in a cohort and then be able to help each other and to learn how do I navigate this new experience that I'm having. And so it's really interesting when we interview students and talk with them after they've completed Summer Bridge programs. We have found out that on many campuses, the students who are in the Summer Bridge program together, they stay together sort of informally for years to come. They continue to have study groups together, and they get together just for general socialization. They go out and have pizza together, but they build this kind of support network during the Summer Bridge experience. And so the idea behind Summer Bridge is to really help students get to that first year and also through the first year. Most of the programs, if students complete the Summer Bridge events that happen between graduation and the first day of college, they also continue into at least the fall semester with some periodic check-ins, or some of them go all the way through the spring semester. And so the institutions have designed these, and over time they've gotten really a lot better at designing them based on feedback from students, so that it really provides the kind of support they need at the time when they need it. And so right now, we have the last round of Summer Bridge programming or Summer Bridge grants that are going on. And what our institutions are doing is getting ready for the Summer Bridge experience for 2024. Unfortunately, our grant funding has come to an end. And so what we're trying to do is provide the best support we can right now to kind of launch those programs. But that's why this year it's a little bit different in terms of how we are able to help recruit. But I will be able to provide, Mitzi, with the follow-up email, a list of the programs and the contacts of the program facilitators. The biggest issue with our Summer Bridge staff has been that it's hard for them to find the students who need the program. And so this is another example of how those partnerships between high schools and colleges can be so important, because if the colleges don't know who the students are who really need these programs, and they don't have their information where they can share that with them, it can make it difficult. And many students can miss out on an opportunity that would really be beneficial to them. So I hope that I can get that information. I look forward to getting that information to you all, so that, if you have students who might benefit from a Summer Bridge program and you know where they're heading, that you could let them know about these. And most of these are completely free for students. And sometimes there are even incentives built in. Like when a student completes the Summer Bridge program, they either receive some college credit if there's a course that's built into it, or they might receive a scholarship. There's always something that's built in as an incentive for students to complete it, in addition to those sort of, overall ancillary benefits that are hard to quantify. So it's a really great opportunity for students. And many of our campuses over the last 3 or 4 years have started to see the benefits in terms of long-term retention, that these students who go through Summer Bridge programs, they tend to matriculate at higher rates than students like them who have not had a Summer Bridge program. So it's really been a great thing for the students. It's been a great thing for the staff. They're really energized by the opportunity to work with students who otherwise wouldn't be there. And so it's been a really great program.
Well, thank you for sharing those. And I had an opportunity, last summer to visit some of the Summer Bridge programs, and phenomenal. And the kids spoke very highly of the opportunities that it was providing them, especially with just getting familiar with the campus and feeling more comfortable with all the things that college brings. So Robin, thank you for sharing that great information. We're going to kind of switch gears now and talk about how FAFSA and some of the things associated with FAFSA can maybe even increase students melting away. So Cassie, I'm going to share my screen again, and that way we can show this next slide. And I want to ask you a few questions about, whoops, I went too far, about some considerations concerning the FAFSA. So we know that FAFSA has made things different as we head into May, or we are in May, than in years past. And so how might this impact summer melt, and how can or do advisors help students avoid those unexpected challenges?
Thank you so much, Mitzi. So it is no secret that we are in an unprecedented year, and will there be a year soon that we can set, that we don't have to say that we're in an unprecedented year? We sure hope so. But due to the FAFSA Simplification Act, there were lots of changes on the 24-25 FAFSA, resulting in a significant delay. It didn't open until December, the very end of December versus October as usual. And so with those timeline changes and just the software changes on the FAFSA came a lot of other bumps and hurdles, issues with the calculations, issues with processing, issues with when institutions could access the FAFSA information. And so all of this kind of culminates into an extremely compressed timeline, both for the financial aid offices and for the students making their decisions. And so these decision dates are typically May 1st. May 1st is the National Candidate Selection Reply date. And so that's the date that colleges say, we will wait until May 1st to hear whether or not you've decided to come to our college. Currently, I had to look at my little calendar at the bottom. I didn't know what day it was. Currently, it's May 16th, halfway through May. And there may be students out there who have completed their FAFSA, been accepted to their college, and they still haven't seen a financial aid offer from that college. And it's not the college's fault, and it's not the student's fault. It is delayed timeline. And as a result of this delayed timeline. And so how can students make choices when they don't know what their finances are going to look like next year, when they don't know what type of offer they're getting? And so because of this, students are having to choose between making a decision without a financial offer on the table, or wait until they get their financial offer, which is anxiety provoking. And then we have that collection of students, that group of students who simply aren't making a decision at all. And that's where we are getting the additional summer melt that's happening with this delayed timeline. And so, we're really posed with an even compounded issue this summer, in that, there's always, like Robin has been saying, there's always a population of students who are going to melt between the end of the school year and the start of the fall. And this year, we are anticipating a much greater risk of students melting, because you guys know 18-year-olds, high school seniors, fresh graduates. If they don't hear from their school, they think, well, this school must not want me, or, oh, I didn't get any money from my college. I'm just not going to go. I've got this great job working at TJ Maxx. I make $15 an hour. I'm good. I don't have to go to college. And so I think that we are in a very, very high risk year for having a historically low freshman year enrollment, and quite frankly, potentially historically low returning college student enrollments as well because of all of this. A huge part of that is just lack of understanding. The students just don't understand that there's the delayed timeline. They don't understand that, it's not the institution doesn't want you. It's not that you didn't get any money. We're just in a delayed timeline. It's coming. Your award letter is coming. Just be patient. Your decisions can be made sooner, or, your decisions can be made later this year. And so I really think the lack of understanding is a huge part of why we will see a lot of this melt. But I don't want to leave you hopeless. There are things we can do. Mitzi, I didn't know if you wanted to go ahead and change slides or if there were any questions at this point. Perfect. So some of the ways, oh, sorry, Mitzi, did you have another question?
Mitzi, I think you're muted.
Sorry, my apologies. I wanted to just give a shout out to Cassie and the outreach coordinators, because even though there have been lots of problems with the FAFSA, you all have done a phenomenal job supporting Kentucky students. And from my understanding, Kentucky's numbers are, even though lower than years past, higher than the national average. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. So the nation is sitting at about a 33% decline in FAFSA completions at this point. So, and it gets a little muddy because if you look at week to week, so if you look at, okay, in May of last year, this many people had completed their FAFSA. May of this year, we're 33% down as a nation. But then if you look at week to week, it doesn't look as bad because we're really only 5 months into the cycle. And so last year's cycle, this would have been February. And so we're actually doing better and we're higher ahead 5 months into the cycle. But the problem is we don't get extra time to make these decisions. We don't get to press 3-month pause on the start of the freshman year. And so that ground has to be made up somewhere. So Kentucky, while the United States is sitting at about 33% decline from last year, Kentucky's hovering around a 27% decline. So 27% is huge. We are not as bad as other states. We are making a lot of headway and we're doing really well in terms of our FAFSA completion. But we know this, probably the coming week, is the most critical time because our students graduate and then we lose our captive audience. And so one of the biggest things we need to take into consideration is what can we do in a 2.5 month, 3-month period where we don't have these students sitting in a classroom where we can walk in and say, have you filed your FAFSA yet? So one of the things that one of our recommendations is to constantly and as much as possible reassure your students that their aid offers are coming. We want the students to have grace for their financial aid offices. I have said since July of last year, when I learned about all of these very specific trainings, all these very specific changes, that the financial aid offices are getting the brunt of the frustration that is coming from this new FAFSA. Basically, the Fed said, we're going to make it simpler on the students. We're going to make it simpler on the federal government, but who's going to pick up all that slack? The financial aid offices at the institutions. And then not just that, but then we add to it the fact that they haven't even been able to look at FAFSA data until just a few weeks ago. And so it is not the fault of the financial aid offices that this stuff is coming out so late and that they're not, in heavy communication with the students. So encourage your students to give grace to those financial aid offices. They want these students. Trust me, they are trying as hard as they can. And so those offers are coming, but the financial aid offices are on a highly compressed timeline as well. And so some of the things that we've kind of batted around as ideas, additional ways to help are late summer check-ins. So a student who may this time of the year not be ready to think about college, or maybe they've given up a little bit because of the frustrations of the delayed timeline. We want to check back in with those students. We want to be sure that your graduated seniors come end of July know what's going on. And I kind of gave some really practical advice during the podcast a few weeks ago, but since then, I've actually taken that and made it into a little something more solid. And so we can talk about exactly how we can do these events where we invite college and KAA reps to do some increased support late summer for our graduated seniors. And then just as Robin was saying, communication, communication, communication. Continue to reach out to your students, continue to connect with them, figure out, I keep telling my staff, figure out the most unconventional way to meet with seniors or parents who are in this state of being on hold and talk with them about what to expect and what their next steps are. I've encouraged my crew to partner with summer feeding programs, to go to these locations, and maybe they can run into some parents, maybe they can run into some students who might need some additional support. Everywhere that you can think of, libraries, anywhere that you can think of, that there will be students or parents who may need this FAFSA support. Go to them, talk them through this, tell them what their next steps are.
Thank you, Cassie, for sharing that. And, communication is key in all things. So you mentioned specifically some events, and we know that there's a continued push to support students with the FAFSA completion. We always try to support the students each year, but this year some extra special things being done or planned. So could you tell us a little bit about some of the things that KIA has planned and some of the things that KIA is offering for students?
Absolutely. May 1st, KIA launched the hashtag KY Files FAFSA social media campaign. This is a campaign to just blanket social media platforms in graphics and reminders to make sure students know it's not too late to file your FAFSA. You should still file your FAFSA. If you're stuck, there is help available to you. Just because school is out doesn't mean that you can't complete your FAFSA now. And so you may be seeing lots of graphics coming through KIA's platforms with the theme, May the FAFSA be with you. That's our May theme. June is school's out, FAFSA's in. And then July is Fun, Freedom, and FAFSA. And if you are interested in that toolkit where you can just pull those graphics and share them yourself, those are housed at kygoestocollege.com. You can just scroll down on the first page and that toolkit is there. The other thing that's there is a registration form for our FAFSA summer office hours. And so one of the things that we wanted to do to ensure that students always had access to expert help is we wanted to have every Wednesday in the month of June, all over the state of Kentucky, locations and people who would be available and waiting for students to come in and get some help on their FAFSA, students, parents, families to come in and get some help on their FAFSA. And so currently we're at 42 sites across the state of Kentucky who have registered and have agreed every Wednesday in the month of June from 2 to 4, their local time, they will have a location and they will have a FAFSA expert there. And I use the term expert loosely because you don't have to be an expert. These people just need someone helping them. So even if you want to come in and field questions that you are just sending to an outreach counselor, if you just want to come in and be there, have access to your laptops and your Wi-Fi and things like that, whatever support you can give these students during these FAFSA office hours will be used. KIA is actually going to, after everyone registers for the office hours, we're going to begin marketing those so that students and parents know that they have all of these locations, they have all of these people. One really exciting partnership is that Gear Up has agreed to have a bilingual FAFSA expert available in different locations each Wednesday. And so we'll be marketing that for parents who may need some help translating their questions or the FAFSA. But lots of good stuff coming with the FAFSA office hours. We're super excited about that. And to talk about what I mentioned earlier with that we actually solidified some plans to really put some summer supports in. We have just decided, we haven't launched it yet because registration still needs to be built, but we are going to do a FAFSA completion summer boot camp for any school counselor, advisor, college access professional, Frisky, Trio, Gear Up, whatever. If you help students, you can come to this FAFSA boot camp. It is going to be June 20th in our Frankfort office. It's going to be a day-long completion The morning completion workshop, the morning session is going to go into workarounds for the FAFSA, updates, frequently asked questions, kind of panels so that counselors can ask questions to us and we can answer those. So you can take the information back to your area and help students. And then the afternoon is going to talk to you about summer completion efforts and unique and creative ways to help your students. And then we'll be introducing the launch of FAFSA tailgate party. And you can sign up to host a FAFSA tailgate party. And these events will be targeted for the kind of the end of July, very, very beginning of August, but to catch all of those students who don't have everything checked off their list. And they still need some things to happen before they can matriculate to college. And then at the FAFSA tailgate parties, our goal is to have other, college, community college reps, key representatives there to actually sit down and help your students through these to-do lists so that they can attend college in the fall. And so look for lots of information that's getting ready to come out about that. Like I said, the June 20th boot camp is going to be, that registration will go up soon. And that's going to be kind of your first step in the door to be able to host one of these FAFSA tailgate parties. And so more information about that is coming soon. But here in Kentucky, we are burning the midnight oil, thinking about how we can reach these students, how we can close this completion gap, and what we can do to make sure that our college access professionals are supported well, and also our students and families are supported well. So we have a lot of exciting things coming, and we hope that, well, I won't talk about it, but even more exciting things are coming down the pike that you will hear about soon. Big announcements coming from KAA. And so stay tuned. Reach out to me if you have questions about these things. Continue to visit kygoes2college.com. Continue to visit KAA.com and check our social media because, like I said, big announcements coming soon.
Well, thank you so much, Cassie. You shared lots of great information. And I know our participants maybe their heads may be spinning from all the great information that's shared because there's lots to be aware of. So want to give them an opportunity to ask any questions that they may have. So if you have questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can simply raise your hand in the using the emoji, or even drop them in the chat if you would rather do that. So at this particular moment, do we have any questions from anyone? Lots of great things being talked about today. I will say, as we're waiting to see if anyone has a question, that Cassie, when you get that registration information ready, share it with us and we'll be happy to push it out through our listserv and share it with everybody here today. Any questions? If not, I will move on. And I do want to just share and quickly, if you have not checked out our college and career advising toolkit or post-secondary advising toolkit, we would encourage you to do so. The address is here on the screen, as well as a QR code that will take you directly to the toolkit. Lots of great information. And I know we're getting short on time, so I'm going to go quickly through this. We are launching a new on-demand learning series, and these videos or modules will be housed on our toolkit. Our partnership module is currently linked to the toolkit, and more will be available soon. So please check often for those learning modules. We are also still soliciting bright spots because we know there are lots of great things going on throughout the state concerning post-secondary advising. So we would love to recognize you for the great things that you are doing. So if you have something unique or neat or just something successful that you do in your school or district that supports students in their career journey, we would love to know about it so that we can share with others across the state. And we would love that if you could to submit those by May 30th, and you can email them to me, mitzi.holland@ky.gov, with the subject Bright Spots. And finally, we do want to encourage you to stay in contact with us. If you are not following us on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, X now, please do so at Advising KY. We also encourage you to join our email distribution list, and you can do that on our website, cpe.ky.gov/advisingky. As always, we want to thank you for joining us and encourage you to complete our survey, because that helps us gauge what you need from us and how we can better support you. And this is also how you will receive your ELA or Frisky credit. So if you would take a moment to scan the QR code or visit the website that is listed on the screen and take a few moments to complete that survey. Again, we so appreciate you all being here today. We thank you, Robin and Cassie, for the great information that you shared. And still, if you have questions, we still have time to answer. I went through that quickly so that we could give our participants time to answer any questions that you might have. But if not, we do thank you for joining us, and be sure to, like I said, complete the survey for us. Robin, Cassie, ladies, do you have anything else that you would like to add before we end our time here today?
Thanks, Mitzi. I would just like to go back and summarize and just say, there are so many things that might cause a student to melt. There are academic concerns that might be real or imagined. And so, it's important to think about, okay, if the students have academic gaps, how can I help them close those? Or if they just feel like they have academic gaps, how can I help them feel more confident? They might have social and emotional issues or concerns. And so these might include anxiety about what's new about college, or making friends when they get to college, a sense of just loneliness, or how am I going to make connections with other people and make this transition, on a personal level. And they might even have financial or logistical concerns, like even childcare or transportation or food insecurity. And so, it's hard to think about how do we support students in all of these areas, but any of them can cause melting to occur in that summer transition period. And so, thinking about how can we partner with other people to make sure that all of these bases are covered is really important, especially for our most vulnerable students. So thank you for being here today, and I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Well, thank you. And Cassie, did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Just that, I feel like I'm beating this drum, but that this FAFSA completion is everybody's job. It should be everybody's passion right now. It should be everybody's goals. Yes, it is a challenging year, but Kentucky has never failed to rise to the challenge. And so I just encourage everyone to think outside of the box, come up with new ideas, come up with new initiatives, join in on initiatives that are already happening. And just do everything you possibly can to make sure that these students get the resources and the support that they need to start college in the fall. And as always, reach out to KIA. Our outreach counselors are ready and waiting to help you. Keith Ritchie, my assistant director, and I are ready and waiting to get you on board with a lot of our stuff that we have going on. And so reach out to us. We're always here. And thank you so much for everything you already do in the field to help support these very, very important young people.
Thank you all. And thank you all that attended today. To echo what Cassie and Robin said, we appreciate all that you all are doing to support students in their journey, and reach out if you have any questions or if we all can support you in any way. We hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we hope you have a wonderful summer. I know a lot of you all are nearing the end of the school year, so we hope that you have a wonderful and restful summer. Thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event, whether that be a webinar or an in-person training. Thank you.